What are your any equity views? Strong equity.
Equity.
Views?
I don't have strong equity views right now. I can tell you that the model is heavily cash because I sense that we have entered a new regime in the market. I think for the last 10 years, there was kind of governmental support for the market, or at least there was the message.
Just a tad, 120 billion a month.
Yeah, they whatever it takes, 120 billion a month. I think that that was a very important part of people increased willingness to take risk because they thought they had an insurance policy. Whether they had or not, that's not really matter. They believe they did, so they acted accordingly. And I think that has somewhat changed. I think politically, the number one concern is inflation. That's not a new idea. I think it's there. I think the fear that politicians have is always not getting elected, and I think that they believe that the thing that will get them out of office is elevated inflation. Before it was a fear of market going down, now it's a fear of inflation. So I think that the focus has changed to that. And I found it very interesting that Joe Biden reappointed Powell. Back in November, there were doubts about it. I think it was Brainerd that was considered more. So November 22nd, Powell was reappointed. Kind of to me, it was a bit of a surprise because Powell had always been dovish. I mean, when Powell was appointed the first time, was a very hawkish central bank. Then
until the pivot, like a couple months later.
Yeah. Then he changed to please the powers that be. And I think he's kind of flexible in his approach. That's not very dogmatic. It's like he will do whatever he needs to do. And when he was reappointed, we had an initial burst of enthusiasm in the market. NASDAQ went to an all-time high, reversed, and we haven't seen it. We haven't seen those prices since. And my interpretation of that is that Joe Biden and Powell got together, and Powell said, Jerome, are you going to help me fly this inflation problem? If you say yes, you get reappointed. And he got reappointed. So I think the focus has changed completely. And that has introduced turbulence in the market. We are in a new regime. The reality is I don't know how this new regime will resolve itself. I don't know if we're going to go. I can see the scenario where we correct the excesses of the last few years. There are reasons to believe that. Last year, we had more inflows than the last 20 years combined. This dynamic has continued in 2022, and yet prices are lower. That is a very bad sign. A year ago, we had the same dynamic with ARK, where they have massive inflows and prices started to move lower. That was kind of the beginning of the end. And that is something that I kind of pay attention to, because when you have a lot of inflows and the prices don't move accordingly, that means that there is a lot of seller supplies on that side. No, that's kind of negative. Like all these people, all the latecomers that came, that bought at high prices, many of them are underwater. That doesn't make for a very good market. That means that people are in pain, weak hands. They're going to be tired when it comes to putting money to work again. And that is not a positive development. That is not good. Now, the other side of the argument is that maybe what we have seen in the last 12 months, all these massive inflows, was kind of like the beginning of a stampede away from cash, as people realize that cash is not a very good asset in the long run. So this could have been the beginning of a process in which money flows into any asset that is yielding. And we have seen that in other places, mostly emerging markets, South Africa, Venezuela, Argentina, where the money gets devalued and people look protection in assets, in stocks and real estate. So that could happen. But in the meantime, we have this process of readjustments to the new regime when we went from, let's call it the Fed put to the inflation focus. And so like things get rejiggled. And during that process, we have all this noise. And I think we're going through that. That's why I'm quite happy to be away. This is a very treacherous market. You can lose a lot of money. It's very hard to make money. There's like no rhyme or reason. Is the market looking for pain, looking for weak hands? And as I said, not the time to be a hero. It's just much better to take a step back and let it settle, and then we will know. And it can take a few months. And if you take a step, if you step aside for a few months, you probably will be happy. Until there's no reason to. I mean, let's say the risk reward right here is not good.
Yeah,
because there is no real good direction.
Well, there's no reason to push the trade, and I'm assuming that your systems are also, in your strict definition of trend, that hard screen is not showing a lot of opportunities as well.
There's not a lot of things. I mean, there are a few things, but it's not. We're not seeing a lot of things.
and the last few days hasn't changed that situation in any way.
In February, I mean, to give you an idea, we ended January 95% in cash. We had one position, and we took 3 or 4 new ones in February. We exited a couple of them, so we have a bit more invested. There are some things that are doing well. Actually, I'm going to put the letter out there next week, but we have commodity inflation link related materials, mortgages, things that are doing well. But in general, we're not seeing a lot. Now, this could have been a bottom, or at least local bottom, but this program is not designed to pick bottoms because you get smelly fingers when you do that.